Welcome to the Global Home Inspector Training Program Overview. This is an informational video on how to train to become a home inspector. I am Matt Fletcher, there on the left. That's me. And I'm a former high school construction trades teacher turned home inspector, and I've been a home inspector for over 26 years now. And a few years ago, I started my own Home Inspectors Association and training courses. And this is my pitch to get you to sign up to train as a home inspector with us instead of our competition. So pay attention. All right, let's look at some of the benefits of the home inspection business. There's a low barrier to entry compared to many other trades. So unlike being an electrician or plumber or architect, where you got to train for years before you get a license, that is not so in the home inspection industry. Becoming a home inspector takes far less time. It generally requires a little training and certification, but that varies by state. So just prior to starting this video, I checked on Kansas again. This is about Kansas specifically. There's no licensing requirement in Kansas as of June of 2026. That's the same in Michigan where we're at. We're in the Detroit area. There's no licensing requirement for home inspectors in Michigan. There's a low cost to get started in the business. So if you've already been in contracting, you have a truck and maybe some tools and ladders and a computer to do your books on, things like that. That's a lot of it there already that you would have. You'd also need like a plug tester, some good flashlights, a moisture meter, maybe a thermal imaging camera if you want to buy one. And a lot of guys buy drones now to do roofs with. Drones are very handy. I have a drone. As far as how long it takes you to complete the course, usually about 30 days or so. If you do a lesson a day, you'll be done in about 30 days. There's about 30 lessons, and each lesson should take about an hour, hour and a half to read through and make some notes on, and then we give you another hour to take the test. So, 2.5 hours per lesson, I would count on. Earning potential. Well, you can Google it, what the average is in your state. Those numbers are out there. I started to put them in this presentation, but you can just Google it. Don't take my word for it. So in Kansas, you can Google what's the average home inspector make in Kansas. Um, But as long as people are buying, selling homes, which will be forever, you'll have work. On average, people only live in a house about 6.5 years now before they move. Inspection work cannot be offshored and it cannot be replaced with AI. So those are great benefits in this day and age. Flexible schedule. This is what attracted me to it. Flexible schedule. Most home inspectors are self-employed, giving them control over how many hours they want to work, the number of clients or jobs they want to do, um, when they want to take their vacations, how much time they want to take off, if they want to do it full or part-time. So when I was teaching construction at a high school, I did home inspections part-time, and then for whatever reason, the school district cut that program and laid us all off. And I started doing home inspections full-time at that point. I'm married. I have a wife with good benefits. I'm on her benefits. So that worked out very well for me. And we like to go up north in northern Michigan and go fishing and kayaking and things like that so we can take off when we want to. Let's talk about the training program a little bit. So, like I said, I was a high school construction teacher. I have a master's degree in teaching and additional certification to teach construction trades. In my class, the students built a real house each school year. And here in this picture, my students are observing a foundation contractor pouring the footing for our foundation. So in our lessons, not only will you learn how to inspect a building, but you're going to learn how it's built too. So I use a lot of these pictures. There's another one from building trades. We used to call it building trades when I was teaching. So this is the basement. The basement floor will be poured over this, but right now we're doing the underground plumbing. So I use a lot of pictures like that to explain things that you can't see when you're doing a home inspection, just so you know what's going on behind the drywall, behind the plaster. Same thing here. Here we're framing a floor. You can see we're using an Advantech OSB plywood, 3/4 inch tongue and groove. That we would glue it and screw it down. So you'll learn how a flooring system is put together and what to inspect on it. You also see pictures like this for electrical systems and plumbing, siding, roofing, roofs, things like that, doors and windows. Here's another one where our concrete contractor was pouring our slab for our front porch. So you can see the moisture barrier that goes up on the OSB plywood here to protect it from moisture. And they didn't always do that in the past. So we learn things over time, what rots out and what happens to buildings, and then they change the codes. So we discuss that in some of our lessons, why things have changed over time. And I'll show you right here in a second. Right there's why. So this is a rim joist. This is the front porch slab. This is what's left of the rim joist that used to cover this whole front porch slab. But because it didn't have a moisture barrier like you saw in the last picture, the moisture got between the slab and the wood, the structure of the house, and rotted it out. So that's what happens. You can see the rim joist is rotted out. A couple little holes there. That's probably powder post beetle damage. You'll learn about that in our lessons. This is the plywood subfloor that you saw my students installing. That's rotted out so there's a door threshold here too. So the door threshold and the slab, that's a problem area in old houses, especially if the porch isn't covered, and especially if the slab is flat or even slants toward the house. That's really trouble, right? Because all that water runs toward the house. So you learn things like that in our lessons. Here's another good one, crawl spaces. So this is this crawl space entry, and the downspouts dumping water right next to the crawl space entry, and then you have negative grade here. You can't tell from the picture, but the dirt slants toward the house instead of away. So all that water would run out of that downspout and go in the crawl space. So in the crawl space, you can see it's very wet, okay? And they had done some renovation work on this house, and they tore out part of the flooring, the subflooring that you saw my students putting down. That was a subfloor, and they let it fall between the joists, and it fell into the crawl space, and now it's rotting on the ground, and it's getting wet because this is a very wet crawl space with negative grade, and you can see the water soaking up into it there, so it's starting to rot, and wood destroying insects will be attracted to that, and they will eat this wood, and then they can migrate up into the structure of the house and eat up the whole house. So you learn about things like that. So in this crawl space, you can see there's wires hanging down. That would be a defect for a report. The wires are supposed to be secured to they're supposed to go through the floor joist, but here in the Detroit area, you can see a lot of it's nailed under the floor joist, which isn't really correct, but they're almost all like that, where someone's added a circuit. There's some cable wire laying on the ground over here. That's a defect. The wood on the ground that's rotting is, of course, a defect. There's no vapor barrier, which is usually 6 mil plywood. I mean, plastic here in the Detroit area. So no vapor barrier on the ground. So those are all defects for a report, and you'll learn about that in our lessons and how to write the report. We coach you along on how to do that. So I'm not your only instructor. You have another instructor, and his name is Joe Vaglica, Vaglica, if you want to look him up. We call him Dr. Joe because he has a PhD in engineering, and he's also a PE, professional engineer. And Joe teaches construction courses here in the Detroit area, and that's how I met him. I took a few of his classes. Joe is taught at Macomb Community College, the University of Detroit, and Wayne State University, where he's also the chair of the construction management program there. He helped develop the program. They didn't have a construction management program until Joe developed it for him. And he teaches some of the courses, like I said, and he's the chair. So Joe isn't just a professor who just teaches. He also owns Gateway Engineering in Shelby Township, Michigan. And he's out in the field a lot doing structural inspections, doing inspection stuff with me. And I do stuff for him. And He does civil engineering projects, and this happens to be a subdivision that Joe designed and built. He designed the layout for the lots where the houses are being built behind him, and you can also he also designed the road and the sewer system under the road. Joe designed all of that, made the blueprints, and hired the contractors. So you have two very well qualified instructors in our program. If you can find somebody better qualified than us or a better price than what we have, I recommend you go take their program. But you will not find a better deal than what we have, I promise you. Because not only do you receive home inspection training, you also get lessons on how to inspect small and medium-sized commercial buildings. Okay, we have lessons on flat roofs, restrooms, and parking lots. Now, just so you know, other organizations that train home inspectors charge 1,000 to about 3,000 extra to train you to inspect commercial buildings. Ours is included for free. You're probably thinking, why in the world would you do that, Matt? It's because we're a newer school and we're not well known. That's why. So you just do it for less and you do it better, and that's how you get ahead. This is another picture of that's that same building that we saw on the last slide. You can see the little half circle there on top of the roof. But we have a lesson just on commercial roofs. So you see the sinkholes here where the roof is rotting, the roof was leaking, the roofing material was leaking, and it rotted out the substrate, which in commercial buildings can be corrugated metal or plywood. And you will learn about that. These are big vents for fans for the kitchen area because this is a restaurant. You learn about that. This over here is a heating and cooling system. It's not a separate furnace and AC unit like you see sitting in a house. You know, you'll have the AC unit sitting outside, the condenser, and then the furnace is usually inside the house in the basement or the crawl space or whatever. This is a all-in-one unit here. You see that a lot in commercial work. So you learn about that. We have a separate lesson on parking lots. So this is not the parking lot itself, but this is a driveway going out of the parking lot. This is a building we inspected. So we have drainage in parking lots. You have striping and arrows in parking lots. So, you know, the parking spaces, the condition of the asphalt. We go into that. These are called bollards over here. These bollards are protect this gas meter here. Bollards have many uses in commercial parking lots, and you'll learn about that. ADA bathroom. So we have lessons on public restrooms, or you know, where you would have a restroom in a commercial building, which many times they have to be ADA compliant. Americans with Disabilities Act. You have to have at least a 36-inch door, large enough area inside with turn-in radius for a wheelchair, grab bars. The sink has to be a certain height. So you will learn about things like that. Sewer scopes. So sewer scopes have become a pretty standard feature on home inspections and commercial building inspections. So sewer scopes can easily add 15 or 20 or even $25,000 to your bottom line each year. Um, you can get into a decent sewer camera now for less than $1,000. I just bought one called a Vevor, Vevor, for $500. I'm trying it out. So far, I'm pretty happy with it. Everything works very well except the sound. You can't narrate very well like it could with my old rigid camera, which cost $5,000. So I'm trying this Vevor out, and I would recommend you do that if you try out home inspections and you know you like it and it looks like it's going to work out for you. Um, I recommend you go out and buy a Vevor or some other inexpensive sewer camera. Don't go too cheap, and start doing sewer scopes. Here in the Detroit area, we charge 150 extra for a sewer scope along with a home inspection. And if we have to go out and do it as a separate item, it depends on how far I have to drive, but anywhere from $250 to $350 is a standalone. We call those add-ons in the inspection business. So a sewer scope would be an add-on, uh, mold testing would be an add-on, radon test would be an add-on. So And just so you know, other organizations that train home inspectors charge extra, and the going rate for a sewer scope lesson is about $500. So we have a pretty comprehensive lesson on that. I believe there are 12 or 15 videos of actual sewer scopes we done that you can watch, and we go into the the dangers of doing sewer scopes, like getting bacteria, on your hands and in your eyes and things like that. You do not want to do that, of course. You can get hepatitis from sewer water, so we go into that, some of the health hazards involved and safety precautions that you should take, and how to market your sewer scope business. So, for instance, when I first bought my first sewer camera, I um, I did them for free. When I was doing a home inspection, I'd say, "Hey, you want a free sewer scope?" And I would tell them that ahead of time too, so they didn't hire someone else to do it. Say, "Hey, I got a sewer camera. I'm doing it for free right now because I'm just starting out." And I would let the realtors know that. And realtors will actually refer you business because you have a sewer camera, because it makes their life easier. They don't have to coordinate with another separate sewer guy to do it. So you can do all of it at one time and do it generally cheaper too. So that helps their customer. All right, let's take a look at our website. So there's Joe and I, your two instructors. So we are a licensed post-secondary proprietary school in the state of Michigan. Okay. This is our inspection website for training our home inspectors, and it's globalinspectionschool.com. That's globalinspectionschool.com. Um, there's a big enroll now button here on the left, that big blue button. So what you do is you click on that and you just put in your credit card information, then you get student access over here on the right, and there's a drop down menu, and you go into the lessons there. Let's see what else. Let's take a look at the lessons. So here we have, you go into the lessons, there's a course introduction. So it basically tells you that the lessons are listed pretty much in alphabetical order. The commercial lessons are at the end. Um, it tells you things like important points are repeated. So if something's repeated, you're probably going to be tested on it. Important points are bolded. So if it's bolded, you're probably going to be tested on it, right? So we give you tips like that, what to look for to do well on the test. We're not trying to trick you. We're just trying to teach you what you need to know. This is a screen print of a quiz. So commercial roof inspection quiz 101. Um, so there's true and false questions, multiple choice, pretty standard stuff. We also have, let's see, oh, hotspots. So this software we use to develop these lessons has something called hotspots. So this is a picture of a sump pit and pump where we inspected a building. And each one of these dots is something you're supposed to know. So it basically says, do you know the parts of the sump pump? So if you don't know, you can click on the dot and there's a drop down menu and it tells you what it is. And then you can remember that for the test. So we try to hit you several different ways. So when you go to school to be a teacher, they teach you that a student needs 3 exposures to a new concept to really learn it, for it to really begin to sink in. So the teacher will lecture about it. Okay, that's one exposure. They will show you pictures of it. Okay, that's another exposure. You read about it in the lessons. Okay, so that's another exposure. And then we have a fourth exposure where you write about it at the end. So there's an essay question at the end of all of our lessons and quizzes. So you have to complete the essay question. Speaking of essay question, here's an essay question right here. Um, so there's 2 essay questions at the end. So one is just like a bonus point. So it says, what'd you think of the lesson? What could we do to improve it? And we read every single one of them. So if you have a good idea, we'll use it. If you think, you thought of something that we didn't, no problem. We'll use that. Um, The other question, and you get a bonus point just for answering that question. And if you don't have any suggestions, just put, I thought lesson was fine the way it was, I don't have any suggestions, you still get your bonus point, okay? So it's not like you have to think of something to change. um, the other bonus question, the other essay question, I should say, is this one, for instance, was about roofs. So it says, let me read it to you if you can't see it. It says, using the information in this lesson, write a few paragraphs on how you would go about inspecting a roof. Explain what types of things you would be looking for. You could also make a checklist as part of your answer. So this guy wrote a few paragraphs on what he would be looking for, and he made kind of a checklist. Each paragraph is one of the items he would be looking at. So that's a great answer. So it was worth 10 points, and he got 10. So, and I grade the essays. I'm a pretty fair grader. Uh, I've never given anyone a 0. You'll pass. All you have to do in the essay question is repeat back to us what we told you in the lesson, and you will do fine. Okay, just regurgitate it back, and that's your fourth exposure to the material in the lesson. So you should do very well. And the reason we do that is because a lot of home inspectors struggle with writing reports. They're not used to writing. They haven't written anything since they were in high school or college or whatever. So we give you writing practice. That's what this is all about. It's learning and practicing your writing skills so you can write your reports, okay? The road to success is always under construction. So in other words, you got to up your skills, guys. You know, if you've been in the roofing business or doing siding and windows and you want to become a home inspector, try it out part-time, make some extra money. That's fine, but you need some education. So that's what this is. We can educate you to do this. I took this picture, and this was actually a shed building contest in the state of Michigan where different school districts from all over the state come to participate. And basically, they gave the kids a set of blueprints and some lumber and 8 hours to build a shed, and 3-man teams. And they built the shed. And this team came with these, they all had this same t-shirt on, which I thought was cool. So I'm going to get myself some t-shirts made like that. The road to success is always under construction. That's a true statement. Globalinspectionschool.com is our website. Just a couple more slides, guys. Nope, let's do a review. So in our curriculum, you get a complete home inspection course from the foundation to the roof and everything in between. Everything you need to know about being a home inspector is in here, okay? We also give you lessons on small and medium-sized commercial building inspections, okay? Because when you start meeting realtors, they're going to say, hey, do you do commercial? And because you did our lesson, you can say, yeah, I can do commercial. I've had training in that. I have a certificate saying I can do it. We also include sewer scope training. Like I said, when you become a home inspector, if you like it and it looks like it's going to work out for you, one of the first things I would do is go out and buy that sewer camera. Get that $500 Viver if you want. It's a 164-foot camera, which should be all you need. Don't bother buying a 200 or 300-foot camera. You're not going to get it out that far in the line, okay? It's just not happening. So get that 164-foot camera for $500 and you're in the sewer scope business, okay? You also have highly qualified instructors. If you can find anybody more qualified than Joe and I, go sign up for their program and let me know who they are because I want to know. And you get all that for $450, okay? So that's what you get. Hope to hear from you. Hope to have you as a student. Global Inspector Certification Association. This is the name of our organization. Our phone number is 313-510-0284. If you call that number, I will probably answer the phone. If you don't want to talk, you can text that number because it's a cell phone, and we will answer your texts. If you want to email us, we use Gmail because you can send really big files with Gmail, and we still do inspections, and we have to send really big files with pictures and reports and things like that. So if you want to email us, you can email us at globalinspectionschool@gmail.com. globalinspectionschool@gmail.com. So thank you for listening, and we hope to have you as a student, and good luck.